Hello there, and welcome to Whispers of Science, where curiosity gets cozy and complex chemistry becomes as gentle as a lullaby. Tonight, we're embarking on a fascinating journey into one of the most beautiful mysteries of human existence, the chemistry of happiness. It's a voyage through the molecular landscape of joy, the neural pathways of contentment, and the delicate dance of chemicals that paint our emotional world in shades of light and shadow. Before we begin our gentle exploration, I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from tonight and what small moment of happiness brightened your day. Perhaps it was the first sip of morning coffee, the warmth of sunlight through a window, or simply the quiet satisfaction of settling into this peaceful corner of the internet. If you find this soft science journey soothing or intriguing, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave the video a like and maybe subscribed it. Helps this little haven of calm reach others who might need a moment of wonder in their day. Now, I do hope this exploration of happiness isn't so fascinating that it keeps you awake. But if it does well, at least you'll drift off, knowing a bit more about the remarkable chemistry that makes us smile so. Settle in, take a deep breath, and let's begin. Because somewhere in the intricate web of neurons and neurotransmitters lies the secret symphony of what makes us feel truly alive happiness. It's perhaps the most sought after treasure in human experience, more valuable than gold, more precious than diamonds. Yet it's something we can't hold in our hands or store in a vault. It exists in fleeting moments, in quiet contentment, in bursts of pure joy that seem to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. But what if I told you that happiness isn't just an abstract feeling floating somewhere in the ether of human consciousness? What if it's actually a carefully orchestrated chemical concert happening right inside your brain every single moment of every single day? The truth is, happiness has a molecular signature, a chemical fingerprint that scientists have been decoding for decades. It's written in the language of neurotransmitters, those tiny chemical messengers that zip between brain cells carrying news of joy, sorrow, excitement, and peace, like microscopic postal workers delivering emotional mail throughout your nervous system. These aren't just random chemicals floating around your head. They're the fundamental building blocks of how you experience the world. The difference between a day that feels heavy and gray and one that sparkles with possibility. Let's start our journey with perhaps the most famous member of this chemical happiness ensemble, dopamine, often called the reward chemical. Though that's a bit like calling Beethoven just a piano player, dopamine is far more complex and interesting than its popular reputation suggests. It's not actually the chemical of happiness itself, but rather the chemical of wanting, of anticipation of the delicious moment just before satisfaction arrives. Imagine you're walking through a forest and you catch the scent of something wonderful wafting through the trees. Your dopamine system lights up, not because you're eating that delicious meal, but because you're anticipating it. The excitement of discovery, the promise of satisfaction, the thrill of the hunt. These are dopamine's domain. It's the chemical that makes you check your phone when you hear a notification, the feeling that makes you excited about weekend plans, the spark that ignites when you think about seeing someone you love. But here's where it gets interesting. Dopamine doesn't just respond to good things, it responds to the possibility of good things, and it's particularly fond of surprises when something wonderful happens exactly when you expect it. Dopamine gives a polite little nod, but when something delightful happens, unexpectedly, dopamine throws a full celebration. This is why random acts of kindness feel so incredibly good. Why finding money in an old jacket pocket makes you smile more than earning the same amount at work. Why surprise gifts often bring more joy than expected ones. The dopamine system is also remarkably trainable, almost like a puppy learning tricks. It begins to associate certain cues with potential rewards, which is why walking past your favorite bakery can make you feel happy even if you don't buy anything. Why hearing a particular song can instantly transport you to a joyful memory. Why just thinking about vacation can boost your mood. Weeks before you actually leave, your brain has learned to connect these signals with positive experiences, and dopamine obliges by creating that warm feeling of anticipation. But dopamine has a shadow side too. It's the chemical behind addiction, the driving force that can make wanting something feel more important than actually having it. When the dopamine system becomes dysregulated, it can create an endless cycle of seeking without satisfaction, like being perpetually hungry, but never able to feel full. This is why some of the most successful people in the world can still feel deeply unsatisfied, despite having everything they thought they wanted. Their dopamine system is stuck in permanent seeking mode, never quite able to appreciate what they already have. Then there's serotonin, the gentle philosopher of the neurotransmitter world. If dopamine is the excited child pointing at shiny objects, serotonin is the wise grandmother sitting peacefully in her garden watching the sunset. Serotonin is associated with feelings of contentment, social connection, and overall well being. It's the chemical that makes you feel like you belong, like you're part of something larger than yourself. Serotonin levels are influenced by some surprisingly simple things. Exposure to sunlight, for instance, can boost serotonin production, which explains why many people feel happier on bright sunny days, and why seasonal depression often strikes during the darker months of winter. It's also connected to our sense of social status and belonging. People who feel respected and valued in their communities tend to have higher serotonin levels, while those who feel isolated or rejected often struggle with serotonin deficiency. The fascinating thing about serotonin is that most of it isn't even produced in your brain. About 90% of your body's serotonin is actually manufactured in your gut by the same bacteria that help digest your food. This gut brain connection is why what you eat can profoundly affect how you feel, why some foods seem to lift your spirits while others leave you feeling sluggish and low. It's also why gut health and mental health are so closely linked to truth that ancient healers understood long before we had the science to explain it. Exercise is another powerful serotonin booster, but not in the way you might expect. It's not just about the endorphin rush that comes from intense physical activity, though that's certainly part of it. Regular moderate exercise actually changes the way your brain produces and uses serotonin, creating a more stable foundation for mood regulation. It's like tuning an instrument. The more you practice, the better it sounds. Then we have endorphins, the body's natural painkillers, and mood elevators. Endorphins are chemically similar to morphine, but they're produced by your own body in response to stress, pain, or intense physical activity. They're responsible for that famous runner's high, the euphoric feeling that can come after pushing through physical discomfort. But endorphins aren't just about exercise. They're released during laughter, during moments of deep connection with others, and even during activities like eating spicy food or getting a massage. The endorphin system is beautifully designed to help us cope with life's challenges and celebrate its pleasures when you laugh until your sides hurt. Those are endorphins flooding your system when you feel that warm glow after helping someone in need. Endorphins are part of that equation when you push through a difficult workout and feel amazing afterward. You're experiencing your body's own natural reward system in action. But perhaps the most intriguing member of our happiness chemical quartet is oxytocin, often called the love hormone, though like dopamine. This nickname barely scratches the surface of its true complexity. Oxytocin is the chemical of connection of trust, of the bonds that tie us to other humans and even to our pets. It's released during physical touch, during moments of eye contact, during acts of kindness and generosity. Oxytocin is what makes a mother feel overwhelmingly protective of her newborn baby, what makes couples feel closer after spending quality time together, what makes you feel warm and fuzzy when you hug someone you care about. But it's not just about romantic love. Oxytocin is released during all kinds of social bonding, from friendships to community connections to the relationship between humans and their beloved pets. The oxytocin system is also remarkably responsive to our actions. Acts of kindness boost oxytocin levels, not just in the recipient, but in the giver, and even in people who simply witness the kind act. This is why volunteering can be so emotionally rewarding, why helping others often makes us feel better than helping ourselves, why communities with strong social bonds tend to have happier, healthier residents. But here's where the story gets even more fascinating. These four chemicals don't work in isolation. They're constantly interacting with each other, creating complex emotional symphonies that change throughout the day, throughout the seasons, throughout our lives. Dopamine might spark the initial excitement of meeting someone new, but oxytocin deepens that connection into lasting bonds. Serotonin provides the stable foundation of contentment, while endorphins help us push through challenges and celebrate victories. The balance between these chemicals is delicate and constantly shifting. Stress can suppress serotonin production while boosting cortisol, the stress hormone that can interfere with all our happiness. Chemicals' lack of sleep can throw off dopamine regulation, making us crave instant gratification while struggling to feel satisfied. Poor nutrition can affect the gut bacteria that produce serotonin, while lack of social connection can leave us oxytocin deficient understanding. This chemistry doesn't diminish the beauty of happiness, it enhances it. Knowing that joy has a molecular basis doesn't make it less meaningful, any more than understanding how a piano works makes music less beautiful. If anything, it adds another layer of wonder to the human experience. The fact that our bodies have evolved these intricate systems specifically designed to help us feel good, to connect with others, to find motivation and meaning in life. This chemical understanding also offers hope, because if happiness has a biological basis, that means there are concrete steps we can take to influence it. We're not simply at the mercy of random emotional weather patterns. We can learn to tend our internal chemical garden, nurturing the conditions that help our happiness molecules flourish as we continue our journey through the chemistry of happiness. We'll explore how these remarkable molecules interact with our daily lives, how simple changes in behavior can create profound shifts in our emotional well being, and how understanding our own chemical nature can help us build more sustainable, joyful lives. But for now, let's pause here in this gentle moment of discovery, knowing that even as you listen to these words, your brain is conducting its own quiet chemical symphony, creating the very experience of curiosity, wonder, and perhaps even a touch of contentment that makes this moment uniquely yours. The remarkable thing about our brain's happiness chemistry is that it's not a fixed system like the wiring in an old house. Instead, it's more like a living garden, constantly growing, adapting, and responding to the care we give it. This concept is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself throughout our entire lives, and it means that the pathways that carry our happiness chemicals can actually be strengthened and refined through practice. Think of it this way: every time you experience joy, your brain is essentially taking notes. It's recording what happened, what you were doing, who you were with, what you were thinking, and it's strengthening the neural pathways associated with that positive experience. It's like your brain is a dedicated student of happiness, constantly learning and improving its ability to recognize and recreate joyful moments. This is why certain activities seem to get more enjoyable the more we do them, why hobbies can become deeply satisfying, sources of contentment, why relationships often grow richer over time. Your brain literally becomes better at happiness through practice. The neural pathways become more efficient, the chemical responses more refined, the whole system more finely tuned to recognize and amplify positive experiences. But here's something that might surprise you: the brain's happiness chemistry is remarkably responsive to our thoughts and beliefs, not just our external circumstances. Your internal dialogue, that constant stream of thoughts running through your mind, has a direct impact on your neurotransmitter production. Optimistic thoughts can boost serotonin levels, while negative self talk can suppress them. Gratitude practices can increase dopamine release, while ruminating on problems can interfere with the entire happiness chemical system. This isn't just wishful thinking or New Age philosophy, it's measurable neuroscience. When researchers scan the brains of people practicing gratitude, they can actually see increased activity in areas associated with dopamine production. When they study the brains of people who regularly meditate, they find structural changes in regions linked to emotional regulation and serotonin function. The thoughts we think literally reshape our brain's ability to produce happiness. One of the most powerful discoveries in happiness research is the concept of the hedonic treadmill. The idea that we tend to return to a baseline level of happiness despite positive or negative life events. You might think that winning the lottery would permanently increase your happiness levels, but research shows that after an initial spike, most lottery winners return to roughly the same level of contentment they had before their windfall. Similarly, people who experience significant setbacks often recover to their previous happiness baseline more quickly than expected. This might sound discouraging at first, but it's actually incredibly hopeful because it suggests that happiness isn't determined by our circumstances, but by our brain's chemical habits, and habits, as we know, can be changed. The hedonic treadmill isn't a prison, it's more like a thermostat that can be adjusted with the right understanding and techniques. The key lies in understanding that our brains are prediction machines, constantly trying to anticipate what's coming next based on past experiences. When something good happens, our dopamine system doesn't just respond to the current moment, It updates its predictions about future possibilities. This is why variety and novelty are so important for sustained happiness. When experiences become too predictable, our dopamine system essentially says, "Been there, done that," and stops paying attention. This explains why the first bite of chocolate cake is always the most delicious, why the first few days of vacation feel more magical than the last, why new relationships often feel more exciting than established ones. It's not that these things become objectively less wonderful, it's that our brain's chemical reward systems are designed to notice change and novelty rather than steady states. But there's a beautiful workaround to this apparent limitation, and it involves something called savoring the practice of deliberately slowing down and paying attention to positive experiences. When you consciously notice the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the taste of your favorite tea, the sound of someone you love laughing, you're essentially giving your brain permission to fully engage its happiness chemistry. You're turning up the volume on the experience, allowing the dopamine, serotonin, and endorphin systems to fully activate. Savoring is like meditation for the happiness chemicals. It requires presence, attention, and intention. When you really pay attention to a positive experience, you're not just passively receiving it, you're actively participating in the creation of joy. This is why mindfulness practices can be so effective at increasing overall life satisfaction. They teach us to notice and appreciate the small moments of happiness that might otherwise slip by unnoticed. The timing of our happiness chemistry is also fascinating. Different neurotransmitters have different rhythms and cycles. Serotonin levels naturally fluctuate throughout the day, often peaking in the morning and declining in the evening. Cortisol, our stress hormone, follows a similar pattern, but in reverse, typically highest in the morning when we need energy to face the day, and lowest at night when we need to rest and recover. This natural rhythm explains why many people feel most optimistic and energetic in the morning and more contemplative or sometimes melancholy in the evening. It's not a character flaw or a sign of depression, it's simply the natural ebb and flow of our brain chemistry. Understanding these rhythms can help us work with our natural chemical patterns rather than against them. Dopamine levels are particularly influenced by our sleep patterns. During deep sleep, our brains perform a kind of chemical housekeeping, clearing out metabolic waste products and resetting neurotransmitter levels. This is why a good night's sleep can make problems seem more manageable, and why chronic sleep deprivation can lead to mood disorders and difficulty feeling pleasure or motivation. The relationship between sleep and happiness chemistry is so strong that sleep disorders are often the first sign of chemical imbalances in the brain. Insomnia can be both a cause and a symptom of disrupted neurotransmitter function, while healthy sleep patterns can actually help stabilize and optimize our happiness. Chemical systems, nutrition plays an equally important role in happiness chemistry because neurotransmitters are made from the building blocks we get from food. Tryptophan, an amino acid found in foods like turkey, eggs, and cheese, is a precursor to serotonin. Tyrosine, found in almonds, avocados, and bananas, helps produce dopamine. Omega-3 fatty acids found in fish and walnuts are essential for overall brain health and neurotransmitter function. But it's not just about individual nutrients, it's about overall dietary patterns. Diets high in processed foods and sugar can cause rapid spikes and crashes in neurotransmitter levels, leading to mood swings and cravings, while diets rich in whole foods provide the steady supply of nutrients needed for stable happiness chemistry. This is why comfort foods often provide temporary relief but don't create lasting happiness. They give a quick chemical boost, followed by a crash. The social aspect of happiness chemistry is perhaps the most beautiful part of the story. Human beings are fundamentally social creatures, and our happiness chemicals reflect this reality. Oxytocin, the bonding hormone, is released not just during intimate moments, but during everyday social interactions. A warm conversation with a friend, a genuine compliment from a stranger, even making eye contact with someone can trigger oxytocin. Release this social dimension of happiness. Chemistry explains why isolation can be so damaging to mental health and why strong social connections are one of the most reliable predictors of life satisfaction. Our brains are literally wired for connection, and when we're cut off from meaningful social interaction, our happiness chemistry suffers. The effects ripple through every aspect of our emotional well being, but connection doesn't have to be complicated or dramatic. Some of the most powerful oxytocin boosters are surprisingly simple: a genuine smile, shared laughter, a moment of eye contact, a gentle touch on the shoulder. These micro moments of connection might seem insignificant, but they're actually the building blocks of our social happiness. Chemistry physical touch is particularly powerful for oxytocin release, which is why massage therapy can be so effective for both physical and emotional well being, why pet ownership is associated with better mental health, why cultures with more physical affection tend to have lower rates of depression and anxiety. Our skin is literally an organ of connection, sending chemical signals of safety and bonding to our brain. The happiness chemistry of helping others is especially fascinating. When we perform acts of kindness or generosity, we don't just make others feel good, we trigger a cascade of positive neurochemical changes in our own brains. This phenomenon, called the helper's high, involves the release of dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins, creating a natural mood boost that can last for hours or even days. This explains why volunteering is so consistently associated with increased life satisfaction and why people who regularly help others tend to live longer, healthier lives. Our brains are wired to reward prosocial behavior because cooperation and mutual aid were essential for human survival throughout our evolutionary history. As we delve deeper into the chemistry of happiness, we begin to see that joy isn't just a pleasant bonus in life, it's a fundamental biological imperative. Our brains have evolved sophisticated systems specifically designed to help us feel good, to connect with others, to find meaning and purpose in our experiences. These aren't accidents of evolution, they're features carefully crafted by millions of years of natural selection. Understanding this doesn't diminish the magic of happiness, it deepens it. Knowing that love has a molecular signature doesn't make it less profound, any more than understanding how a sunset works makes it less beautiful. If anything, it adds layers of wonder to the human experience. The fact that our bodies have evolved these intricate chemical orchestras specifically to help us flourish, to bond with others, to find joy in simple moments. This brings us to one of the most intriguing aspects of happiness chemistry: the concept of emotional contagion. Our brains are equipped with specialized neurons called mirror neurons that fire both when we perform an action And when we observe someone else performing the same action, these remarkable cells help us understand and empathize with others. But they also mean that emotions can literally spread from person to person like a gentle virus of feeling when you're around someone who's genuinely happy. Their joy can trigger similar chemical responses in your own brain. This is why laughter is contagious, why being around positive people tends to lift your mood, why a single person's enthusiasm can energize an entire room. Your happiness chemistry doesn't just respond to your own experiences, it resonates with the emotional states of those around you. This phenomenon helps explain why social environments are so crucial for mental health. Toxic relationships and negative social dynamics can suppress our happiness chemicals, while supportive, loving environments can amplify them. We're not just individuals trying to optimize our own brain chemistry. We're part of an interconnected web of emotional influence, constantly affecting and being affected by the happiness chemistry of others. The implications of this are both humbling and empowering every time you choose to express genuine joy or kindness. You're not just making yourself feel good, you're potentially triggering positive chemical cascades in everyone around you. Your happiness, quite literally, becomes a gift to others, creating ripple effects that can spread far beyond your immediate circle. But what about when happiness chemistry goes awry? When the delicate balance of neurotransmitters becomes disrupted? Depression isn't simply the absence of happiness. It's often a complex dysregulation of multiple chemical systems. Serotonin levels might be chronically low. Dopamine pathways might become less responsive to rewards. The entire network of happiness chemicals might struggle to function properly. Anxiety disorders can involve hyperactive stress response systems that interfere with normal happiness chemistry when your brain is constantly scanning for threats. It's difficult for the systems responsible for joy and contentment to function optimally. It's like trying to enjoy a peaceful meal while someone is constantly shouting warnings in your ear. The happiness chemicals are still there, but they're being drowned out by chemical alarm bells. Understanding this chemical basis of mental health challenges offers both compassion and hope. It reminds us that these conditions aren't character flaws or signs of weakness. They're medical conditions involving real physiological changes in brain chemistry. Just as we wouldn't blame someone for having diabetes, we shouldn't blame ourselves or others for struggling with depression or anxiety. The good news is that just as our brains can learn patterns of happiness, they can also unlearn patterns of distress. Neuroplasticity works both ways. Trauma and chronic stress can reshape our neural pathways in negative directions, but healing practices can reshape them in positive directions. Therapy, meditation, exercise, social connection, and sometimes medication can all help restore healthy patterns of happiness chemistry. One of the most powerful tools for optimizing happiness chemistry is something called behavioral activation, the practice of deliberately engaging in activities that boost positive neurotransmitters, even when you don't feel like it. This might sound artificial at first, but it's based on solid neuroscience. The act of doing things that typically bring joy can help jumpstart sluggish happiness chemical systems. It's like priming a pump. Sometimes you need to pour a little water in to get the flow started. The key is choosing activities that align with your natural happiness chemistry patterns. If you're someone who gets a dopamine boost from accomplishing goals, then setting and achieving small tasks might be helpful if you're someone who responds well to social connection. Then reaching out to friends, this might be the right approach. The timing of these activities matters too. Our happiness chemistry is influenced by circadian rhythms, those internal biological clocks that regulate sleep wake cycles and hormone production. Most people have natural peaks and valleys in their neurotransmitter levels throughout the day. Learning to work with these rhythms rather than against them can significantly improve our overall emotional well being. Morning sunlight exposure, for instance, can help regulate both serotonin and melatonin production, creating a foundation for stable mood throughout the day. Regular meal times can help maintain steady blood sugar levels, which in turn supports consistent neurotransmitter function. Consistent sleep schedules help optimize the brain's nightly chemical reset process. The role of expectation in happiness. Chemistry is particularly fascinating. Our brains are constantly making predictions about future experiences, and these predictions actually influence our current chemical state. When we expect something good to happen, our dopamine system begins preparing for it. When we expect something bad, our stress response system activates in anticipation. This means that our beliefs and expectations about happiness can become self fulfilling prophecies. If we believe that joy is rare and fleeting, our brains might not fully engage their happiness chemical systems. If we believe that contentment is possible and accessible, our neurochemistry is more likely to support positive emotional states. The practice of gratitude works partly by reshaping these expectations. When we regularly acknowledge positive experiences, our brains begin to expect more of them. This expectation itself triggers the anticipatory dopamine release, creating a positive feedback loop where gratitude leads to increased happiness, which leads to more things to be grateful for. Seasonal changes also profoundly affect our happiness chemistry. The reduction in daylight during winter months can disrupt serotonin production in many people, leading to seasonal affective disorder. This isn't just about missing summer fun, it's about real changes in brain chemistry that affect mood, energy, and motivation. Understanding this can help us prepare for and manage seasonal emotional changes. Light therapy can be remarkably effective for seasonal mood changes because it directly influences the brain's production of serotonin and regulation of melatonin. Even artificial light can help maintain more stable happiness chemistry during darker months. It's like giving your brain a chemical reminder of summer when winter threatens to dim your internal light. The relationship between physical movement and happiness chemistry goes far beyond the famous runners. High different types of exercise affect neurotransmitter production in different ways. Aerobic exercise tends to boost endorphin production, while strength training can increase feelings of competence and self efficacy, which support healthy dopamine function. Yoga and Tai Chi combine physical movement with mindfulness practices, creating a perfect storm for happiness chemistry. These activities can simultaneously reduce stress hormones, boost mood enhancing neurotransmitters, and strengthen the neural pathways associated with present moment awareness. It's like a comprehensive tune up for your brain's emotional systems. Even simple activities like walking in nature can have profound effects on happiness chemistry. The Japanese practice of forest bathing or Shinrin yoku has been shown to reduce cortisol levels and boost immune function while simultaneously increasing feelings of peace and well being. There's something about natural environments that seems to optimize our brain chemistry in ways we're only beginning to understand. The foods we eat don't just provide the raw materials for neurotransmitter production, they can also directly influence our happiness chemistry. Dark chocolate contains compounds that can boost endorphin production. Fermented foods support the gut bacteria that produce serotonin. Certain spices, like turmeric, have anti inflammatory properties that can indirectly support healthy brain chemistry. But perhaps most importantly, the act of sharing meals with others combines nutrition with social connection, creating a powerful combination for happiness. Chemistry breaking bread together, literally breaking and sharing food, has been a human bonding ritual for thousands of years because it simultaneously nourishes our bodies and strengthens our social connections. The happiness chemistry of creativity and self expression is another fascinating area of research when we engage in creative activities, whether it's painting, writing music, or even cooking. We activate multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously. The focus required for creative work can boost dopamine. The self expression can increase serotonin, and the satisfaction of creating something new can trigger endorphin release. This explains why hobbies and creative pursuits can be so emotionally rewarding, even when they don't lead to external recognition or financial gain. The act of creation itself is neurochemically satisfying, engaging our brain's reward systems in ways that feel meaningful and fulfilling as we near the end of our exploration into the chemistry of happiness. We begin to see that joy isn't just a fleeting emotion or a luxury for the fortunate. It's a fundamental aspect of human biology as essential to our well being as proper nutrition or adequate sleep. Our brains have evolved sophisticated systems specifically designed to help us experience pleasure, connect with others, and find meaning in our lives. The beautiful truth is that happiness isn't a destination we arrive at, but a capacity we can cultivate, a skill we can develop, a garden we can tend with patience and understanding. Every moment offers us the opportunity to engage with our own happiness chemistry, to notice what nourishes it and what depletes it, to make choices that support the delicate balance of chemicals that create our emotional landscape. This understanding transforms how we might approach difficult days. When sadness settles in like fog, we can remember that this too is chemistry, temporary and changeable. When anxiety makes our thoughts race, we can recognize the stress hormones at work and engage practices that help restore balance. When loneliness feels overwhelming, we can remember that our brains are literally wired for connection and that reaching out isn't weakness, but biological wisdom. The role of ritual and routine in happiness chemistry deserves special attention. Our brains love predictability, not because it's boring, but because it allows our chemical systems to function optimally. When we know what to expect, our stress response can relax, freeing up resources for joy and connection. This is why simple daily rituals can be so powerful for emotional well being. Morning routines that include light exposure, gentle movement, and perhaps a moment of gratitude can set the stage for stable happiness chemistry throughout the day. Evening rituals that help us wind down and reflect can support the overnight chemical reset that happens during sleep. These aren't just habits, they're chemical interventions, gentle ways of supporting our brain's natural capacity for contentment. The concept of emotional regulation through chemistry is particularly empowering. When we understand that intense emotions are partly chemical storms in our brains, we can learn to weather them with greater skill. The overwhelming rush of anger involves specific neurotransmitter cascades that have predictable patterns and durations. The crushing weight of sadness involves change in brain chemistry that respond to specific interventions. This doesn't mean we should suppress or ignore difficult emotions. Instead, it means we can work with them more skillfully. Deep breathing exercises can help regulate the nervous system during emotional storms. Progressive muscle relaxation can help discharge the physical tension that accompanies strong emotions. Gentle movement can help metabolize stress hormones and restore chemical balance. The social dimension of happiness chemistry extends beyond our immediate relationships to our broader communities. Cultures that prioritize social connection and mutual support tend to have better mental health outcomes, not just because of social factors, but because of the chemical benefits of strong community bonds. When we feel part of something larger than ourselves, our brains release oxytocin and other bonding chemicals that contribute to overall well being. This has profound implications for how we structure our lives and societies. Work environments that foster genuine connection and mutual support don't just feel better, they actually optimize everyone's happiness chemistry. Schools that prioritize emotional learning alongside academic achievement help children develop healthy patterns of neurotransmitter function. Communities that create spaces for social connection and mutual aid are literally supporting the brain chemistry of all their members. The happiness chemistry of purpose and meaning is another crucial piece of the puzzle. When we engage in activities that feel meaningful to us, our brains release a cocktail of positive neurotransmitters that create feelings of satisfaction and fulfillment. This isn't about grand gestures or world changing achievements. It's about the deep satisfaction that comes from aligning our actions with our values. For some people, meaning comes from helping others, which triggers the helper's high we discussed earlier. For others, it comes from creating beautiful things, which engages the reward systems associated with dopamine and endorphins. For still others, it comes from learning and growing, which activates the brain's intrinsic motivation systems. The key is finding what feels meaningful to you and making space for it in your life. The relationship between physical health and happiness chemistry is bidirectional. Poor physical health can disrupt neurotransmitter function, leading to mood challenges. But the reverse is also true. Chronic stress and negative emotions can suppress immune function, increase inflammation, and contribute to physical health problems. This mind body connection isn't mystical, it's biochemical. Exercise, as we've touched on, is one of the most powerful tools for optimizing happiness chemistry. But it doesn't have to be intense or punishing. Even gentle movement like walking, stretching, or dancing can boost mood enhancing neurotransmitters. The key is consistency rather than intensity, finding forms of movement that feel good and sustainable rather than punishing. Sleep, often overlooked in discussions of happiness, is absolutely crucial for healthy neurotransmitter function. During sleep, our brains literally wash away metabolic waste products and reset chemical systems. Chronic sleep deprivation can disrupt every aspect of happiness chemistry, making it harder to feel pleasure, maintain stable moods, or cope with stress. Prioritizing good sleep hygiene isn't just about feeling rested, it's about supporting the chemical foundation of emotional well being. The aging process brings its own changes to happiness chemistry. Neurotransmitter production naturally declines with age, which can contribute to mood changes and increased vulnerability to depression. But this isn't inevitable decline. It's a natural process that can be supported and optimized through lifestyle choices. Regular exercise, social connection, meaningful activities, and proper nutrition can all help maintain healthy happiness chemistry throughout the lifespan. There's also something beautiful about the wisdom that can come with age and experience. Older adults often report higher levels of life satisfaction despite physical challenges, partly because they've learned to work with their happiness chemistry more skillfully. They've discovered what truly matters, what brings lasting joy versus fleeting pleasure, what supports their emotional well being versus what depletes it. The role of novelty and variety in happiness chemistry helps explain why travel, new experiences, and learning can be so mood boosting. When we encounter something new, our dopamine systems perk up with interest and excitement. This is why breaking routines occasionally can be so refreshing, why trying new foods or visiting new places can lift our spirits, why learning new skills can be so satisfying. But novelty doesn't have to be exotic or expensive. Something as simple as taking a different route to work, trying a new recipe, or listening to music from a different culture can provide the brain with the novelty it craves. The key is staying curious and open to new experiences, maintaining what researchers call a beginner's mind. The happiness chemistry of forgiveness is particularly fascinating. Holding on to grudges and resentment creates chronic stress that suppresses positive neurotransmitters while elevating cortisol and other stress hormones. Forgiveness not for the other person, but for our own well being can literally change our brain chemistry, reducing stress hormones and allowing happiness chemicals to flow more freely. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior or putting ourselves in dangerous situations. It means releasing the chemical burden of chronic anger and resentment for our own emotional health. Sometimes forgiveness is a gradual process, a gentle letting go rather than a sudden release, and that's perfectly natural. The concept of chemical resilience is worth exploring. Just as physical resilience helps us bounce back from injury or illness, chemical resilience helps us recover from emotional setbacks. People with good chemical resilience tend to have more stable baseline levels of happiness chemicals and more efficient recovery systems when those chemicals are disrupted by stress or trauma. Chemical resilience can be built through many of the practices we've discussed: regular exercise, good sleep hygiene, strong social connections, stress management techniques, and meaningful activities. It's like building emotional fitness, strengthening the systems that support happiness chemistry so they can better weather life's inevitable storms. The happiness chemistry of gratitude deserves special mention because it's both simple and profound. When we consciously appreciate positive experiences, our brains release dopamine and other mood enhancing chemicals. But gratitude isn't just about feeling thankful for big things, it's about training our brains to notice and appreciate the small moments of beauty, kindness, and wonder that surround us every day. This can be as simple as noticing the way morning light falls across your kitchen table, appreciating the smile of a cashier, or feeling grateful for the warmth of your bed at night. These micro moments of gratitude might seem insignificant, but they're actually powerful interventions in our happiness chemistry, training our brains to notice and amplify positive experiences. The seasonal rhythms of happiness chemistry remind us that we're part of the natural world, subject to the same cycles of light and darkness, activity and rest that govern all living things. Rather than fighting these rhythms, we can learn to work with them, adjusting our expectations and self care practices to support our happiness chemistry through different seasons of the year and different seasons of life. As we continue to explore the intricate dance of molecules that create our emotional experiences, we begin to see that happiness isn't just a feeling, it's a whole body, whole brain phenomenon involving complex interactions between chemistry, biology, psychology, and social connection. Understanding this complexity doesn't diminish the magic of joy. It deepens our appreciation for the remarkable systems that make human flourishing possible. The journey into happiness chemistry reveals that we're not passive recipients of random emotional weather. We have agency, choice, and the capacity to influence our own neurochemical landscape through our actions, thoughts, and relationships. This knowledge is both empowering and humbling, reminding us that while we can't control everything that happens to us, we can influence how our brains respond to life's experiences. The interplay between our happiness chemicals and the passage of time reveals another layer of this fascinating story. Our brains don't just respond to immediate experiences, they're constantly weaving together memories of the past with anticipations of the future, creating a rich tapestry of emotional experience that extends far beyond the present moment. This temporal dimension of happiness chemistry helps explain why nostalgia can feel so bittersweet, why anticipation is often more pleasurable than the actual event, and why our happiest memories seem to grow more golden with time. When we recall a joyful memory, our brains don't just access stored information, they actually recreate aspects of the original chemical experience. The neural pathways that fired during that happy moment fire again, albeit more gently, releasing small amounts of the same neurotransmitters that made the original experience feel so good. This is why looking through old photos can lift your mood, why sharing stories of good times with friends can feel so satisfying, why certain songs can instantly transport you back to moments of pure joy. But here's where it gets particularly interesting. Our brains are remarkably creative editors when it comes to memory. Over time, positive memories tend to become more vivid and emotionally rich, while negative aspects fade. This isn't just wishful thinking, it's an actual neurochemical process designed to support our ongoing happiness chemistry. Our brains literally help us remember the good times more clearly, providing a reservoir of positive associations that can boost our mood even years later. The anticipation of positive events triggers its own unique chemical cascade. When you're looking forward to something special, a vacation, a visit from a loved one, or even just your favorite meal, your dopamine system begins preparing for the experience. This anticipatory happiness can sometimes be more intense than the actual event itself, which explains why the weeks leading up to a holiday can feel more magical than the holiday itself. This anticipatory aspect of happiness chemistry is why having things to look forward to is so important for mental health. It doesn't have to be anything grand or expensive. Simply planning small pleasures throughout your week, giving yourself something to anticipate, can provide regular boosts to your happiness chemistry. It's like scheduling deposits in your emotional bank account, ensuring a steady flow of positive neurochemicals. The rhythm of daily life offers countless opportunities to engage with our happiness chemistry in gentle, sustainable ways. The morning cup of coffee or tea isn't just about caffeine, it's a ritual that can trigger the release of comfort associated neurotransmitters. The brief pause to notice a beautiful sunset isn't just aesthetic appreciation, it's a moment of mindful engagement that can boost serotonin levels. The goodnight hug or the gentle stroke of a pet's fur isn't just affection, it's a direct pathway to oxytocin release. These small moments might seem insignificant in isolation, but they accumulate throughout the day like drops of water filling a well. Each tiny engagement with our happiness chemistry contributes to our overall emotional landscape, creating a foundation of contentment that can support us through more challenging times. The concept of emotional granularity, the ability to distinguish between different types of positive emotions, also plays a role in happiness chemistry. People who can identify the difference between contentment and excitement, between gratitude and joy, between love and admiration, tend to have more stable and satisfying emotional lives. This isn't just about vocabulary, it's about recognizing the different chemical signatures of various positive states and learning to cultivate the ones that serve us best. Some people are naturally more sensitive to dopamine and thrive on excitement, novelty, and achievement. Others are more responsive to serotonin and find their deepest satisfaction in peaceful contentment and social harmony. Still others are particularly responsive to oxytocin and feel most alive when deeply connected to others. Understanding your own happiness chemistry profile can help you make choices that align with your natural neurochemical tendencies. The cultural dimension of happiness chemistry reveals how different societies have developed various practices and traditions that support positive neurotransmitter function. The Mediterranean emphasis on communal meals and extended family connections supports oxytocin production. The Scandinavian concept of hygge creates environments that promote serotonin boosting comfort and contentment. The Japanese practice of finding beauty in simple, everyday moments provides regular opportunities for dopamine enhancing appreciation. These cultural practices weren't developed with neuroscience in mind, but they've survived and thrived because they work with our brain chemistry rather than against it. They remind us that happiness isn't just an individual pursuit, it's something that can be supported and nurtured by the communities and cultures we create together. The happiness chemistry of music deserves special attention because it engages multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously. Listening to music you love can trigger dopamine release, while singing along can boost endorphins. Playing music with others combines the social bonding effects of oxytocin with the achievement satisfaction of dopamine. Even just humming a favorite tune can provide a gentle lift to your mood through subtle chemical changes. The rhythmic nature of music also helps regulate our nervous system, potentially supporting the natural cycles of neurotransmitter production. This is why lullabies are so effective at soothing babies, and why upbeat music can energize us when we're feeling low. Our brains are naturally attuned to rhythm and melody, and music provides a direct pathway to emotional regulation through chemistry. The relationship between creativity and happiness chemistry extends beyond artistic pursuits to include any form of self expression or problem solving. The aha moment when you solve a puzzle, the satisfaction of organizing a space, the joy of cooking a meal from scratch. These all engage the reward systems in our brains in ways that boost mood and create lasting positive associations. Creativity also provides a unique form of flow state where self consciousness fades and we become fully absorbed in the present moment. During these flow states, our brains produce an optimal mix of neurotransmitters that create feelings of effortless concentration and deep satisfaction. This is why hobbies and creative pursuits can be so emotionally nourishing, even when they don't produce anything of practical value. The happiness chemistry of learning and growth taps into some of our most fundamental human drives. When we master a new skill, understand a complex concept, or make connections between previously separate ideas, our brains reward us with a cocktail of positive neurotransmitters. This learning based happiness is particularly sustainable because it doesn't depend on external circumstances or material possessions. The curiosity that drives learning is itself a neurochemical state. When we encounter something that piques our interest, our brains release small amounts of dopamine that motivate us to explore further. This is why learning can become self reinforcing. The more we learn, the more we want to learn, creating positive feedback loops that support both intellectual growth and emotional well being. The happiness chemistry of helping others reveals one of the most beautiful aspects of human nature. When we assist someone in need, our brains don't just register the good deed intellectually, they respond with a cascade of positive chemicals that make helping feel intrinsically rewarding. This helper's high isn't just a nice side effect, it's a fundamental feature of human psychology that has helped our species survive and thrive through cooperation and mutual aid. The neurochemical rewards of helping others are so powerful that they can actually override our own immediate self interest. People who regularly volunteer or engage in acts of kindness report higher levels of life satisfaction and better physical health, partly because of the sustained positive effects on their happiness chemistry. It's as if our brains are designed to reward us for being good to each other. The role of touch in happiness chemistry cannot be overstated. Physical contact with others triggers the release of oxytocin, reduces cortisol levels, and can even boost immune function. This is why massage therapy can be so effective for both physical and emotional well being, why pet ownership is associated with better mental health, and why cultures that include more physical affection tend to have lower rates of depression and anxiety. Even self touch can have positive effects on happiness chemistry. The simple act of placing a hand on your heart during a moment of stress or giving yourself a gentle hug can trigger small releases of comforting neurotransmitters. These self soothing behaviors aren't just psychological, they're biochemical interventions that can help regulate our emotional state. The happiness chemistry of nature exposure reveals our deep evolutionary connection to the natural world. Spending time in green spaces has been shown to reduce cortisol levels, boost serotonin production, and improve overall mood. This isn't just about the beauty of natural settings, it's about the way our brains are wired to respond to the environments where our species evolved. The sounds of nature running water, bird songs, rustling leaves can trigger relaxation responses that support healthy neurotransmitter function. The visual patterns found in nature fractals, natural curves, organic shapes seem to be inherently pleasing to our brains, possibly because they signal safety and abundance. Even looking at images of nature can provide some of these benefits, though direct exposure is more powerful. The happiness chemistry of physical comfort reveals how our bodies and minds are interconnected. The warmth of a cozy blanket, the softness of comfortable clothes, the pleasure of a warm bath. These simple physical comforts can trigger the release of mood enhancing chemicals. This is why self care practices that focus on physical comfort can be so effective for emotional well being. The concept of embodied emotion reminds us that our happiness chemistry isn't just happening in our heads, it's a whole body phenomenon. The way we hold our bodies, the tension in our muscles, the rhythm of our breathing all influence and are influenced by our neurochemical state. This is why practices like yoga, tai chi, and even simple stretching can have such profound effects on mood and mental clarity. The happiness chemistry of personal growth and self improvement taps into our natural drive for mastery and achievement. When we make progress toward meaningful goals, our brains reward us with dopamine and other positive chemicals. This doesn't have to involve major life changes. Small improvements in daily habits, gradual skill development, or incremental progress toward larger goals can all provide regular boosts to our happiness chemistry. The key is finding the right balance between challenge and achievement. Goals that are too easy don't provide enough stimulation for our reward systems, while goals that are too difficult can lead to frustration and stress. The sweet spot is in challenges that stretch us slightly beyond our current abilities while remaining achievable with effort and persistence. The happiness chemistry of mindfulness and present moment awareness offers a powerful antidote to the anxiety and depression that can come from dwelling on the past or worrying about the future. When we focus our attention on the present moment, our brains can more fully engage with current positive experiences, allowing happiness chemicals to flow more freely. Mindfulness practices don't just feel good, they actually change brain structure over time. Regular meditation has been shown to increase gray matter in areas associated with emotional regulation and decrease activity in areas associated with stress and anxiety. These changes create a more stable foundation for happiness chemistry to flourish. The seasonal variations in happiness chemistry remind us that we're part of the natural world, subject to the same cycles of light and darkness that govern all living things. Rather than fighting these natural rhythms, we can learn to work with them, adjusting our self care practices and expectations to support our happiness chemistry through different times of the year. The shorter days of winter might call for more attention to light exposure, social connection, and warming activities. The longer days of summer might offer opportunities for more outdoor activities, social gatherings, and energizing pursuits. Understanding these seasonal patterns can help us prepare for and navigate the natural fluctuations in our happiness chemistry throughout the year. The happiness chemistry of routine and ritual provides stability and predictability that our brains find comforting. When we know what to expect, our stress response can relax, freeing up resources for joy and connection. This is why simple daily rituals can be so powerful for emotional well being. They create anchors of positive experience in the flow of daily life. These rituals don't have to be elaborate or time consuming. Something as simple as a morning moment of gratitude, an evening walk, or a weekly call with a friend can provide regular opportunities to engage with our happiness chemistry. The consistency is more important than the specific activity, creating reliable touch points for positive emotional experience. As we meander through the gentle landscape of happiness chemistry, we encounter one of the most delicate and beautiful aspects of this molecular dance, the way our brains learn to recognize and remember joy. Think of it as your neural system developing a kind of emotional muscle memory, where repeated experiences of happiness actually strengthen the pathways that carry these precious chemical messages. This process begins in childhood when our developing brains are particularly plastic and responsive to positive experiences. The warmth of a parent's embrace, the delight of discovering something new, the simple pleasure of play. These early encounters with joy literally shape the architecture of our happiness chemistry. Children who experience consistent warmth and positive interaction develop more robust neural pathways for processing pleasure and contentment, creating a foundation that can support emotional well being throughout their lives. But here's something wonderfully hopeful: this learning never stops. Even in adulthood, our brains retain the capacity to develop new patterns of happiness chemistry through what neuroscientists call activity dependent plasticity. Every time we consciously engage in activities that bring us joy, we're essentially teaching our brains to become more skilled at happiness. It's like practicing a musical instrument. The more we play, the more natural and effortless it becomes. The timing of these positive experiences matters tremendously. Our brains are particularly receptive to happiness chemistry during certain states of consciousness: when we're relaxed, when we're fully present, when we're not distracted by stress or anxiety. This is why moments of quiet contemplation, peaceful walks, or gentle conversations can be so neurochemically powerful. Our brains are able to fully absorb and integrate the positive chemical signals without interference from stress hormones or scattered attention. Sleep plays a fascinating role in consolidating these happiness memories. During the deep stages of sleep, our brains replay the neural patterns from our waking hours, strengthening the connections that were most active during the day. If we've had positive experiences, those pathways get reinforced during sleep, making it easier to access similar feelings in the future. It's like our brains are quietly rehearsing happiness while we rest, preparing us to recognize and create joy more easily when we wake. The language we use to describe our emotional experiences also influences our happiness chemistry in surprising ways. When we have rich, nuanced vocabulary for positive emotions, distinguishing between contentment and bliss, between gratitude and wonder, between love and affection, our brains actually create more specific neural pathways for each of these states. This emotional granularity allows us to experience a wider range of positive feelings and to access them more deliberately. Cultural differences in emotional vocabulary reveal how profoundly language shapes our happiness chemistry. Some languages have words for emotional states that don't exist in English. The Danish concept of hygge, describing cozy contentment, or the Japanese notion of ikigai, referring to life's purpose. People who grow up with these concepts seem to have easier access to the neurochemical states they describe, suggesting that our emotional vocabulary literally expands our capacity for happiness. The social transmission of happiness chemistry is perhaps one of the most beautiful aspects of human emotional life. When we're around genuinely happy people, our mirror neurons fire in response to their joy, triggering similar chemical cascades in our own brains. This isn't just metaphorical. Happiness is literally contagious at the neurochemical level. A single person's authentic joy can ripple through an entire social network, creating waves of positive brain chemistry that touch people they've never even met. This social dimension of happiness chemistry helps explain why strong communities and close relationships are so crucial for mental health. We're not just receiving emotional support from others, we're literally sharing neurochemical experiences, creating collective states of well being that benefit everyone involved. It's as if our individual happiness chemistry systems are designed to link up with others, creating larger networks of shared joy and contentment. The concept of emotional resonance takes this idea even further. When we're in close relationship with someone, our happiness chemistry systems can actually synchronize over time. Long term couples, close friends, and family members often develop similar patterns of neurotransmitter response, creating a kind of chemical harmony that deepens their emotional connection. This synchronization happens gradually through countless small moments of shared experience and mutual attunement. The role of storytelling in happiness chemistry reveals another layer of human emotional complexity. When we share stories of positive experiences, we're not just communicating information, we're inviting others to participate in our neurochemical memories. The act of telling a joyful story can reactivate the original happiness chemistry in the storyteller while simultaneously triggering similar responses in the listeners. This is why sharing good news feels so satisfying and why listening to others' happy stories can lift our own mood. The stories we tell ourselves about our experiences also profoundly influence our happiness chemistry. The same event can be interpreted in multiple ways, and our brains will produce different chemical responses based on the meaning we assign to it. A challenging experience can be seen as a threat, triggering stress responses, or as an opportunity for growth, activating reward systems. Our internal narrative doesn't just reflect our brain chemistry, it actively shapes it. This relationship between meaning making and happiness chemistry is particularly powerful when it comes to adversity. People who can find purpose or learning in difficult experiences often maintain more stable happiness chemistry even during challenging times. It's not that they're denying the difficulty, rather, they're engaging their brain's meaning making systems in ways that support resilience and eventual recovery. The practice of reframing negative experiences isn't just positive thinking, it's a concrete intervention in our neurochemistry. When we consciously look for lessons, growth opportunities, or silver linings in difficult situations, we activate the same reward pathways that respond to more obviously positive experiences. This doesn't mean forcing artificial optimism, but rather training our brains to notice the full spectrum of what's present in any given moment. The happiness chemistry of anticipation deserves special attention because it's often more powerful than the actual experience we're anticipating. The weeks leading up to a vacation, the days before a special event, the hours before meeting someone we love, these periods of positive anticipation can generate sustained releases of dopamine and other mood enhancing chemicals. Learning to savor anticipation, to consciously enjoy the looking forward as much as the actual experience, can significantly expand our overall happiness chemistry. This anticipatory aspect of joy is why having things to look forward to is so important for mental health. It doesn't matter if these future events are large or small, the simple act of positive anticipation engages our reward systems and provides regular boosts to our neurochemical well being. It's like scheduling happiness deposits throughout our future, ensuring a steady stream of positive chemical experiences. The relationship between surprise and happiness chemistry is particularly fascinating. Our brains are prediction machines, constantly trying to anticipate what will happen next. When something unexpectedly positive occurs, it creates a kind of neurochemical jackpot, a surge of dopamine and other reward chemicals that's often more intense than planned positive experiences. This is why unexpected kindness, surprise gifts, or spontaneous moments of beauty can feel so extraordinarily good. Understanding this can help us cultivate more happiness chemistry in our daily lives. Small, unexpected positive actions, leaving a kind note for someone, taking a different route and discovering something beautiful, spontaneously calling a friend, can create disproportionate boosts to our mood and the mood of others. It's like sprinkling surprise happiness throughout our routine, creating opportunities for those wonderful neurochemical jackpots. The temporal dimension of happiness chemistry reveals how our brains weave together past, present, and future into a coherent emotional experience. We don't just live in the present moment, we're constantly influenced by memories of past joys and anticipations of future pleasures. This temporal integration means that cultivating happiness chemistry isn't just about what we're doing right now, but about how we relate to our entire timeline of experience. The practice of gratitude works partly by helping us access positive memories and integrate them into our current emotional state. When we consciously appreciate something from our past, our brains reactivate some of the original happiness chemistry associated with that experience. This isn't just nostalgia, it's an active process of mining our memory banks for neurochemical resources that can support our present well being. Similarly, the practice of setting positive intentions for the future engages our anticipatory reward systems, creating current happiness chemistry based on imagined future experiences. This is why goal setting and dream visualization can be so emotionally powerful. They're not just planning exercises, they're neurochemical interventions that can boost our mood and motivation in the present moment. The concept of emotional weather helps us understand the natural fluctuations in our happiness chemistry. Just as meteorological weather involves complex interactions between multiple atmospheric systems, our emotional weather involves the interplay of various neurochemical systems, each with their own rhythms and cycles. Some days our happiness chemistry naturally runs high, while other days it may be more subdued, and this variation is completely normal and healthy. Learning to read our own emotional weather patterns can help us work with our happiness chemistry more skillfully. We might notice that our mood tends to dip in the late afternoon, suggesting that our neurotransmitter levels need support at that time, or we might recognize that we feel most creative and optimistic in the morning, indicating that this is an ideal time for activities that require positive emotional energy. The influence of physical environment on happiness chemistry is both subtle and profound. Our brains are constantly processing environmental cues: light, color, texture, temperature, scent, and these inputs directly influence our neurochemical state. Bright, warm colors can boost mood enhancing chemicals, while cool, soft textures can promote the release of calming neurotransmitters. Even the height of ceilings can influence our emotional state, with higher ceilings promoting feelings of freedom and expansiveness. This environmental sensitivity means that we can actively design our spaces to support our happiness chemistry. Simple changes, adding plants, adjusting lighting, incorporating meaningful objects, creating cozy corners, can have measurable effects on our neurochemical well being. It's like creating a physical environment that partners with our brain chemistry to promote positive emotional states. The relationship between breathing and happiness chemistry offers one of the most accessible tools for emotional regulation. Different breathing patterns directly influence our autonomic nervous system, which in turn affects neurotransmitter production. Slow, deep breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, promoting the release of calming chemicals like serotonin and reducing stress hormones like cortisol. The beauty of breath based interventions is their immediacy and accessibility. We can influence our happiness chemistry within minutes simply by changing how we breathe. This makes conscious breathing one of the most practical tools for emotional self regulation, a way to gently guide our neurochemical state without requiring any external resources or special circumstances. The happiness chemistry of laughter reveals one of the most delightful aspects of human emotional life. When we laugh genuinely, our brains release a cocktail of positive chemicals: endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, while simultaneously reducing stress hormones. This neurochemical response is so powerful that even fake laughter can trigger some of these benefits, as our brains respond to the physical act of laughing, regardless of whether it's spontaneous or deliberate. The social nature of laughter amplifies these effects. When we laugh with others, we're not just sharing humor, we're creating synchronized neurochemical experiences that strengthen social bonds and boost collective well being. This is why comedy and shared laughter have been central to human culture across all societies. They're powerful tools for creating positive group chemistry. The concept of neurochemical momentum suggests that our happiness chemistry has a kind of inertia. Positive states tend to perpetuate themselves, while negative states can also become self reinforcing. This is why small interventions can sometimes have disproportionate effects. A brief moment of gratitude, a short walk in nature, or a few minutes of deep breathing can shift our neurochemical trajectory in ways that influence our entire day. Understanding this momentum can help us make more strategic choices about how we engage with our happiness chemistry. Rather than waiting for major life changes to improve our mood, we can focus on small, consistent practices that gradually shift our neurochemical baseline in a positive direction. It's like gently steering a large ship. Small adjustments in direction can lead to significant changes in destination over time. The role of physical posture in happiness chemistry demonstrates the intimate connection between our bodies and our emotional states. When we stand or sit with open, expansive postures, our brains interpret this as a signal of confidence and well being, triggering the release of mood enhancing chemicals. Conversely, closed, hunched postures can signal stress or sadness to our brains, potentially suppressing positive neurotransmitter production. This embodied aspect of happiness chemistry means that we can influence our emotional state through physical movement and positioning. Simple changes, straightening our spine, opening our chest, lifting our chin, can create subtle but meaningful shifts in our neurochemical experience. It's as if our bodies are constantly communicating with our brains about our emotional state, and we can participate in this conversation through conscious movement and posture. The happiness chemistry of color and light reveals another fascinating dimension of environmental influence on our emotional state. Different wavelengths of light directly affect neurotransmitter production, with bright, full spectrum light promoting serotonin synthesis and warm, dim light supporting melatonin production. This is why light therapy can be so effective for mood disorders and why the quality of light in our environment significantly impacts our emotional well being. Colors, too, have direct effects on our happiness chemistry. Warm colors like red, orange, and yellow can boost energy and excitement, while cool colors like blue and green can promote calm and relaxation. This isn't just cultural association. Our brains have evolved specific responses to different wavelengths of light that directly influence our neurochemical state. The temporal rhythms of happiness chemistry remind us that our emotional lives are not static, but constantly flowing and changing. Our neurotransmitter levels naturally fluctuate throughout the day, week, and season, creating predictable patterns of emotional highs and lows. Rather than fighting these natural rhythms, we can learn to work with them, scheduling activities that match our natural neurochemical cycles. Morning might be the ideal time for activities that require motivation and energy when dopamine levels are typically higher. Afternoon might be better for social activities when our systems are primed for connection. Evening might be perfect for reflection and gratitude when our brains are naturally shifting toward rest and restoration. Understanding these patterns can help us optimize our happiness chemistry throughout the day. The happiness chemistry of touch and physical affection reveals one of the most fundamental human needs. Physical contact with others triggers the release of oxytocin, the bonding hormone, while also reducing cortisol and other stress chemicals. This neurochemical response is so powerful that even brief, casual touch, a handshake, a pat on the shoulder, a high five, can boost mood and create feelings of connection. The importance of touch for happiness chemistry helps explain why massage therapy, pet ownership, and physical affection are so beneficial for mental health. These activities don't just feel good, they actively support our neurochemical well being by triggering the release of bonding and comfort chemicals while reducing stress hormones. The concept of happiness chemistry maintenance reminds us that emotional well being requires ongoing attention and care, much like physical health. Just as we need regular nutrition, exercise, and sleep to maintain our physical bodies, we need regular practices that support our neurochemical systems. This isn't about perfection or constant optimization. It's about gentle, consistent care for the chemical systems that support our emotional lives. This maintenance approach to happiness chemistry can help us move away from the idea that joy should be constant or that we're failing if we experience difficult emotions. Instead, it frames emotional well being as an ongoing practice of tending to our neurochemical needs with kindness and patience. Some days will feel the full flower of happiness chemistry, while other days will simply tend the garden, trusting that with consistent care, joy will bloom again. The happiness chemistry of personal rituals and meaningful practices reveals how we can create reliable touch points for positive neurochemical experiences. Whether it's a morning meditation, an evening gratitude practice, or a weekly creative activity, these rituals provide consistent opportunities to engage with our happiness chemistry in intentional ways. The power of ritual lies not just in the specific activities, but in the meaning and intention we bring to them. When we approach simple activities with conscious appreciation and presence, we transform them from routine tasks into opportunities for neurochemical nourishment. The same cup of tea can be either a mindless habit or a moment of mindful pleasure, depending on the attention and intention we bring to it. As we near the end of this gentle exploration into the chemistry of happiness, we begin to see that joy is not a destination, but a capacity, not a possession, but a practice. The molecules that create our emotional experience are constantly flowing, changing, responding to our choices and circumstances in an endless dance of chemical creativity. Understanding this dance doesn't diminish its mystery. It deepens our appreciation for the remarkable systems that make human flourishing possible. The beautiful truth emerges that happiness chemistry is both profoundly personal and universally shared. While each of us has our own unique neurochemical patterns and preferences, we all share the same fundamental systems for joy, connection, and contentment. This shared chemistry is part of what makes us human, part of what connects us to each other and to the broader tapestry of life. In this understanding, we find both humility and empowerment. We're humbled by the complexity and delicacy of the systems that create our emotional experience, reminded that we're part of something much larger than ourselves. Yet we're also empowered by the knowledge that we can participate in this chemical dance, that our choices and actions can influence the molecular symphony that creates our daily experience of being alive. The chemistry of happiness whispers to us about the fundamental goodness of existence, about the fact that our brains and bodies are designed not just for survival, but for flourishing. The very existence of these neurochemical systems for joy, love, and contentment suggests that happiness is not a luxury or an accident, but a fundamental feature of conscious life. As we continue to explore these inner landscapes of molecular emotion, we carry with us the gentle knowledge that every moment offers us the opportunity to tend our happiness chemistry with wisdom and kindness. Whether through a conscious breath, a moment of gratitude, a loving touch, or simply the choice to notice beauty in the world around us, we can participate in the ongoing creation of our own emotional experience. The chemistry of happiness reveals itself not as a secret to be unlocked, but as a gift to be received, not as a problem to be solved, but as a garden to be tended with patience, curiosity, and love. And in this tending, we find not just our own well being, but our connection to the great web of life, where every moment of joy ripples outward, touching other hearts and minds in ways we may never fully know but can always trust. And so we find ourselves at a fascinating crossroads where the ancient wisdom of human intuition meets the precision of modern neuroscience. For millennia, people have known instinctively that certain activities, relationships, and ways of being tend to promote happiness. What we're discovering now is that these time tested practices align beautifully with what we understand about neurochemistry, as if our ancestors were unconsciously optimizing their happiness chemistry long before we knew such systems existed. Take the practice of communal dining, found in cultures across the globe. The act of sharing meals with others simultaneously addresses multiple happiness chemistry systems. The social connection triggers oxytocin release. The act of eating together often involves laughter and conversation that boost endorphins, and the ritual nature of shared meals can promote the kind of present moment awareness that supports healthy serotonin function. Our ancestors didn't know about neurotransmitters, but they understood that eating together made people feel good, and they built entire cultures around this simple truth. Similarly, the human tradition of storytelling serves multiple neurochemical functions. When we share stories, we're not just passing along information, we're creating opportunities for emotional resonance, mirror neuron activation, and the kind of meaning making that supports dopamine production. The stories that survive across generations often contain elements that naturally support happiness chemistry, themes of love overcoming obstacles, kindness being rewarded, or individuals finding their place in the larger community. The practice of gratitude, found in religious and spiritual traditions worldwide, turns out to be one of the most powerful tools for optimizing happiness chemistry. When we consciously appreciate what we have, we're engaging multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously. The act of focusing on positive aspects of our experience boosts dopamine. The sense of abundance and well being supports serotonin production, and the often social nature of gratitude sharing good news or thanking others can trigger oxytocin release. But gratitude isn't just about the big, obvious things. Our happiness chemistry responds just as powerfully to what researchers call microgratitudes, tiny moments of appreciation that might last only seconds. The brief pause to notice how comfortable your bed feels, the fleeting appreciation for a stranger's smile, the momentary acknowledgement of your body's ability to breathe without conscious effort. These small recognitions can create gentle but meaningful shifts in our neurochemical state. The practice of what some traditions call loving kindness meditation reveals another profound alignment between ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. When we deliberately cultivate feelings of goodwill toward ourselves and others, we're engaging the same neurochemical systems that respond to actual experiences of love and connection. The brain, it turns out, doesn't make a sharp distinction between imagined and real emotional experiences when it comes to chemical production. This suggests that our capacity for happiness chemistry isn't limited to what actually happens to us, but extends to what we choose to focus on and how we direct our attention. The medieval mystics who spoke of finding joy in contemplation, the Buddhist practitioners who cultivate loving kindness, the modern therapists who teach visualization techniques, they were all, in their own ways, working with the malleable nature of neurochemical experience. The role of physical movement in happiness chemistry extends far beyond formal exercise. Traditional dances, walking meditations, even the simple act of swaying to music can trigger the release of mood enhancing chemicals. Our bodies are designed for movement, and when we honor this design, our brains reward us with feelings of vitality and well being. This is why cultures that incorporate regular physical expression into their social and spiritual practices often report higher levels of community satisfaction and individual contentment. The concept of flow states, where we become completely absorbed in activity, represents a perfect storm of happiness chemistry. During flow, our brains produce an optimal cocktail of neurotransmitters: dopamine for focus and motivation, endorphins for the pleasure of the experience, and anandamide, sometimes called the bliss molecule, for the sense of effortless absorption. These states can occur during any activity that perfectly matches our skill level with an appropriate challenge, from playing music to gardening to having a deep conversation. The remarkable thing about flow states is that they're available to everyone, regardless of talent or resources. A child building with blocks can experience the same neurochemical benefits as a master craftsperson creating a work of art. The key is the quality of attention and engagement, not the objective importance or skill level of the activity. The happiness chemistry of learning and curiosity reveals why humans have such a strong drive to understand and explore. When we encounter something new and interesting, our brains release dopamine in anticipation of the learning that might occur. When we actually gain new understanding, we get another chemical reward. This creates a positive feedback loop where learning becomes intrinsically rewarding, independent of any external recognition or practical application. This learning based happiness chemistry is particularly powerful because it's infinitely renewable. Unlike pleasures that depend on external circumstances or material resources, the joy of discovery and understanding can be cultivated anywhere, anytime. The person who finds fascination in cloud formations, bird behavior, or the way light changes throughout the day has access to a constant source of neurochemical nourishment. The social dimension of happiness chemistry reveals why isolation can be so devastating to mental health and why strong communities are so crucial for human flourishing. Our brains are literally wired for connection with specialized neural circuits that respond to social cues and interactions. When these circuits are regularly activated through positive social contact, they support the production of bonding hormones and mood enhancing neurotransmitters. But social connection doesn't require large groups or dramatic interactions. Some of the most powerful social happiness chemistry comes from brief, authentic moments of recognition between individuals. The eye contact with a cashier, the shared smile with a fellow pedestrian, the brief conversation with a neighbor. These micro connections can provide meaningful boosts to our oxytocin levels and overall sense of belonging. The practice of forgiveness, both of others and ourselves, creates profound shifts in happiness chemistry. When we hold on to resentment or self criticism, we maintain chronic low level stress responses that interfere with positive neurotransmitter production. Forgiveness isn't just morally virtuous, it's neurochemically beneficial, allowing our happiness chemistry systems to function more freely. Forgiveness doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior or putting ourselves in dangerous situations. Rather, it's a practice of releasing the chemical burden of chronic anger and resentment for our own well being. Sometimes this release happens gradually through gentle practices of understanding and compassion. Other times it occurs suddenly in moments of grace that seem to dissolve years of accumulated emotional toxicity. The concept of emotional contagion takes on new meaning when we understand the neurochemical basis of shared feeling. When we're around someone who is genuinely happy, our mirror neurons fire in response to their joy, triggering similar chemical cascades in our own brains. This isn't just empathy, it's literal neurochemical synchronization, where one person's happiness chemistry influences another's. This understanding carries both opportunity and responsibility. Every moment of genuine joy we experience has the potential to trigger similar responses in others, creating ripple effects of positive neurochemistry that can spread far beyond our immediate awareness. Conversely, chronic negativity or emotional toxicity can suppress the happiness chemistry of those around us, creating downward spirals of shared neurochemical depletion. The happiness chemistry of ritual and ceremony reveals why humans across all cultures have developed practices that mark important transitions and celebrations. These rituals serve multiple neurochemical functions. They create anticipation that boosts dopamine. They often involve social bonding that triggers oxytocin, and they provide meaning making frameworks that support overall well being. The power of ritual lies not in the specific actions, but in the intention and attention we bring to them. A simple bedtime routine can become a powerful tool for happiness chemistry if we approach it with mindfulness and appreciation. The key is consistency and meaning, creating reliable touch points for positive neurochemical experiences. The relationship between creativity and happiness chemistry extends beyond traditional artistic pursuits to include any form of self expression or novel problem solving. When we create something new, whether it's a meal, a garden, or a solution to a practical problem, we engage multiple reward systems simultaneously. The process of creation provides dopamine driven motivation, while the completion triggers endorphin release, and the sharing of our creations can boost oxytocin levels. The therapeutic value of creative expression becomes clear when we understand its neurochemical effects. Art therapy, music therapy, and other creative interventions aren't just pleasant distractions. They're powerful tools for optimizing brain chemistry and supporting emotional healing. The act of creation itself can help process difficult emotions, build resilience, and create new neural pathways associated with positive experience. The concept of neurochemical resilience suggests that we can build emotional strength, much like we build physical fitness. Through regular practices that support healthy neurotransmitter function, meditation, exercise, social connection, creative expression, gratitude, we can create more stable baselines for happiness chemistry and more efficient recovery systems when those chemicals are disrupted by stress or trauma. This resilience building approach to happiness chemistry emphasizes process over outcome, consistency over perfection. It's not about achieving a constant state of bliss, but about developing the skills and practices that support our emotional well being through life's inevitable ups and downs. Like tending a garden, it requires patience, attention, and trust in the natural processes of growth and renewal. The happiness chemistry of purpose and meaning reveals why humans have such a strong drive to contribute to something larger than themselves. When we engage in activities that align with our values and sense of purpose, our brains release a cocktail of positive neurotransmitters that create feelings of fulfillment and satisfaction. This purpose driven happiness chemistry is particularly sustainable because it doesn't depend on external validation or material rewards. The search for meaning doesn't require grand gestures or world changing achievements. For many people, meaning comes from simple acts of care, raising children, tending plants, helping neighbors, creating beauty in small ways. The neurochemical rewards of meaningful activity are available to anyone willing to align their actions with their values and contribute to the well being of others. The temporal dimension of happiness chemistry reminds us that our emotional lives unfold across time, influenced by memories of the past and anticipations of the future. Our brains are constantly weaving together these temporal threads, creating emotional experiences that extend far beyond the present moment. This is why nostalgia can be so powerful, why hope is so important for mental health, and why our happiest memories seem to grow more golden with time. Understanding this temporal aspect of happiness chemistry can help us work more skillfully with our emotional experiences. We can learn to savor positive memories, extracting ongoing neurochemical benefits from past joys. We can cultivate hopeful anticipation for future experiences, using our brain's prediction systems to generate present moment happiness. And we can practice presence, fully engaging with current experiences so they become rich memories that can nourish us in the future. The seasonal rhythms of happiness chemistry reflect our deep connection to the natural world and its cycles. Our neurotransmitter systems evolved in harmony with the changing seasons, and they continue to respond to variations in light, temperature, and natural rhythms. Rather than fighting these seasonal fluctuations, we can learn to work with them, adjusting our practices and expectations to support our happiness chemistry throughout the year. Winter might call for more attention to light exposure, social connection, and warming activities that support serotonin production. Spring might offer opportunities for renewal and growth activities that engage our dopamine systems. Summer might be ideal for social gatherings and outdoor activities that boost endorphin production. Autumn might invite reflection and gratitude practices that support overall well being. The happiness chemistry of simplicity reveals why many wisdom traditions emphasize the importance of reducing complexity and focusing on what truly matters. When our lives become too complicated, our stress response systems can become chronically activated, interfering with the production and function of happiness chemicals. Simplicity creates space for joy to emerge naturally without the interference of chronic overwhelm. This doesn't mean living in deprivation or avoiding all complexity. Rather, it's about conscious choice making, regularly evaluating what truly serves our well being and what merely adds noise to our lives. The practice of simplicity can be a powerful tool for optimizing happiness chemistry, creating more space for the activities, relationships, and experiences that truly nourish us. The role of wonder and awe in happiness chemistry deserves special attention. When we encounter something that inspires genuine awe, whether it's a beautiful sunset, a piece of music, or a moment of profound understanding, our brains respond with a unique neurochemical signature that includes dopamine, endorphins, and other mood enhancing chemicals. These moments of awe can provide lasting boosts to our happiness chemistry, creating positive memories that continue to nourish us long after the original experience. The capacity for wonder is available to everyone, regardless of circumstances or resources. A child watching ants carry crumbs, an adult noticing the intricate patterns of frost on a window, an elderly person marveling at the complexity of their own hand. These moments of wonder can provide profound neurochemical benefits. The key is maintaining what some traditions call beginner's mind, approaching the world with curiosity and openness rather than taking it for granted. The happiness chemistry of acceptance and self compassion reveals why fighting against our natural emotional rhythms can be counterproductive. When we resist or judge our emotional experiences, we activate stress response systems that interfere with positive neurotransmitter production. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity or giving up. It means working with our natural neurochemical patterns rather than against them. Self compassion practices can directly influence happiness chemistry by reducing the stress hormones associated with self criticism and shame while promoting the release of self soothing chemicals. Treating ourselves with the same kindness we would show a good friend isn't just morally virtuous, it's neurochemically beneficial, creating the internal conditions that support emotional healing and growth. The concept of happiness chemistry as a practice rather than a destination helps us approach our emotional well being with realistic expectations and sustainable strategies. Like physical fitness, emotional fitness requires ongoing attention and care. Some days we'll feel the full flower of our happiness chemistry, while other days we'll simply tend the garden, trusting that with consistent care, joy will bloom again. This practice based approach to happiness chemistry emphasizes small, consistent actions over dramatic interventions, the daily moment of gratitude, the regular walk in nature, the weekly call with a friend, the monthly creative project. These simple practices can create profound shifts in our neurochemical baseline over time. It's not about perfection, but about gentle, persistent care for the systems that support our emotional well being. The happiness chemistry of connection extends beyond our relationships with other humans to include our relationship with the natural world, with our communities, and with something larger than ourselves. When we feel connected to the web of life, our brains produce neurochemical responses similar to those triggered by social bonding. This sense of belonging and connection can provide a stable foundation for happiness chemistry that doesn't depend on specific relationships or circumstances. The practice of cultivating connection can be as simple as spending time in nature, participating in community activities, or engaging in spiritual practices that help us feel part of something larger. The key is finding ways to experience ourselves as part of the interconnected web of existence, rather than as isolated individuals struggling alone. As we gently approach the end of this exploration into the chemistry of happiness, we find ourselves not with answers, but with deeper questions, not with formulas, but with invitations. The molecular dance of joy reveals itself as both profoundly personal and universally shared, both magnificently complex and surprisingly simple. In understanding how happiness works at the chemical level, we don't diminish its mystery. We deepen our appreciation for the remarkable systems that make human flourishing possible. The knowledge that joy has a neurochemical basis doesn't make it less meaningful any more than understanding how music works makes a symphony less beautiful. If anything, it adds another layer of wonder to the human experience, revealing the elegant sophistication of the systems that support our emotional lives. Every moment of contentment, every burst of laughter, every feeling of love represents a perfectly orchestrated chemical symphony playing out in the theater of our minds. This understanding offers both humility and empowerment. We're humbled by the complexity and delicacy of the systems that create our emotional experience, reminded that we're part of something much larger than ourselves. Yet we're also empowered by the knowledge that we can participate in this chemical dance, that our choices and actions can influence the molecular symphony that creates our daily experience of being alive. The chemistry of happiness whispers to us about the fundamental goodness of existence, about the fact that our brains and bodies are designed not just for survival, but for flourishing. The very existence of these neurochemical systems for joy, love, and contentment suggests that happiness is not a luxury or an accident, but a fundamental feature of conscious life. We are literally built for joy, wired for connection, designed for wonder. As we continue to explore these inner landscapes of molecular emotion, we carry with us the gentle knowledge that every moment offers us the opportunity to tend our happiness chemistry with wisdom and kindness. Whether through a conscious breath, a moment of gratitude, a loving touch, or simply the choice to notice beauty in the world around us, we can participate in the ongoing creation of our own emotional experience. The chemistry of happiness reveals itself not as a secret to be unlocked, but as a gift to be received, not as a problem to be solved, but as a garden to be tended with patience, curiosity, and love. And in this tending, we find not just our own well being, but our connection to the great web of life, where every moment of joy ripples outward, touching other hearts and minds in ways we may never fully know, but can always trust. In this gentle understanding, we discover that the chemistry of happiness is not a destination we arrive at, but a conversation we're always having with ourselves, a delicate negotiation between our conscious choices and our unconscious neural patterns. It's like learning to dance with a partner who knows steps we've never been taught, where sometimes we lead and sometimes we follow, but always we're moving together in this intricate choreography of molecules and meaning. The practice of emotional awareness becomes a kind of internal weather forecasting, where we learn to read the subtle signs of our own neurochemical climate. Just as a skilled sailor reads the wind and adjusts their sails accordingly, we can learn to recognize the early signals of our happiness chemistry and respond with gentle interventions that support our well being. This isn't about controlling our emotions, but about working with them skillfully, like a gardener who understands that some seasons are for planting and others for harvesting. The concept of neurochemical seasons reveals itself as we observe our own patterns over time. Some people are naturally morning larks, with happiness chemicals that peak early in the day, while others are evening owls whose neurochemistry comes alive as the sun sets. Some individuals thrive in the high energy bursts of dopamine driven achievement, while others find their deepest satisfaction in the steady glow of serotonin supported contentment. Learning to recognize our own patterns is like discovering our emotional fingerprint, unique and unchangeable, yet infinitely fascinating. The social ecology of happiness chemistry extends far beyond our immediate circle of family and friends. We exist within complex networks of neurochemical influence, where the mood of our coworkers can affect our own stress levels, where the emotional tenor of our communities can influence our individual well being, where even the happiness chemistry of strangers we encounter briefly can leave subtle traces on our own emotional landscape. This interconnectedness suggests that personal happiness isn't just a private pursuit, but a contribution to the collective well being of everyone around us. The practice of emotional generosity emerges from this understanding as both a gift to others and a gift to ourselves. When we consciously choose to share joy, offer comfort, or simply maintain a positive presence in the world, we're not just being kind, we're participating in the creation of collective happiness chemistry. The smile we offer to a stressed cashier, the patience we show in traffic, the encouragement we give to a struggling friend. These small acts of emotional generosity create ripples of positive neurochemistry that can spread far beyond our immediate awareness. The relationship between physical comfort and happiness chemistry reveals why simple acts of self care can have such profound effects on our emotional well being. The warmth of a hot bath doesn't just relax our muscles, it triggers the release of comfort associated neurotransmitters. The softness of comfortable clothing doesn't just feel good, it sends signals to our brain that we're safe and cared for. The ritual of preparing a favorite meal doesn't just nourish our bodies, it engages multiple happiness chemistry systems simultaneously through the anticipation, the creative process, and the eventual satisfaction of eating. These seemingly mundane aspects of daily life become opportunities for neurochemical nourishment when we approach them with conscious appreciation. The key is not to treat self care as another item on our to do list, but to recognize it as a fundamental aspect of emotional health, as essential as proper nutrition or adequate sleep. It's about creating a life that feels good to live, where the simple act of existing in our own skin becomes a source of quiet contentment rather than constant stress. The happiness chemistry of personal growth and learning reveals why humans have such a deep drive to understand and improve themselves. When we make progress toward meaningful goals, our brains reward us with dopamine and other positive chemicals. When we gain new insights about ourselves or the world, we experience the satisfaction of expanded understanding. When we develop new skills or overcome challenges, we feel the deep fulfillment that comes from increased competence and confidence. This growth oriented happiness chemistry is particularly sustainable because it doesn't depend on external circumstances or other people's approval. The person who finds joy in learning, who delights in small improvements, who celebrates incremental progress, has access to a renewable source of neurochemical satisfaction. It's like having an internal reward system that responds to effort and intention rather than just outcomes and achievements. The temporal rhythms of happiness chemistry remind us that emotional well being isn't a constant state, but a dynamic process that unfolds across time. Our neurotransmitter levels naturally fluctuate throughout the day, week, and season, creating predictable patterns of emotional highs and lows. Rather than fighting these natural rhythms, we can learn to work with them, scheduling activities that match our natural neurochemical cycles and adjusting our expectations to honor our biological reality. The morning hours might naturally support activities that require focus and motivation when dopamine levels are typically higher. The afternoon might be ideal for social activities and collaborative work when our systems are primed for connection. The evening might be perfect for reflection and gratitude when our brains are naturally shifting toward rest and restoration. Understanding these patterns can help us optimize our happiness chemistry throughout the day, working with our natural rhythms rather than against them. The concept of neurochemical resilience suggests that we can build emotional strength much like we build physical fitness through regular practices that support healthy neurotransmitter function, meditation, exercise, social connection, creative expression, gratitude. We can create more stable baselines for happiness chemistry and more efficient recovery systems when those chemicals are disrupted by stress or trauma. This resilience isn't about avoiding difficult emotions, but about developing the skills to navigate them with greater ease and recover more quickly. The practice of emotional flexibility becomes crucial as we learn to work with our happiness chemistry. Just as physical flexibility allows us to move through the world with greater ease and less injury, emotional flexibility allows us to adapt to changing circumstances without breaking. This doesn't mean being passive or accepting everything that happens to us. Rather, it means developing the capacity to respond rather than react, to find creative solutions rather than getting stuck in rigid patterns, to maintain our emotional equilibrium even when life throws us unexpected challenges. The happiness chemistry of acceptance and surrender reveals one of the most paradoxical aspects of emotional well being. Often, the more we chase happiness directly, the more elusive it becomes. But when we learn to accept our current emotional state, to work with what's present, rather than fighting for what we think should be there, we create space for natural joy to emerge. It's like the difference between trying to catch a butterfly and sitting quietly in a garden until one lands on your shoulder. This acceptance doesn't mean resignation or giving up on positive change. Instead, it's about recognizing that emotional well being comes not from controlling our neurochemistry, but from learning to dance with it. When we stop fighting our natural emotional rhythms and start working with them, we often find that the happiness we were seeking was already there, waiting patiently for us to notice it. The role of intention in happiness chemistry cannot be overstated. While we can't directly control our neurotransmitter levels, we can influence them through our choices, our attention, and our actions. The intention to notice beauty, to practice gratitude, to offer kindness, to seek connection, these conscious choices create the conditions that support positive neurochemical experiences. It's like planting seeds in fertile soil. We can't force them to grow, but we can create the best possible conditions for growth to occur naturally. The practice of conscious living becomes a form of neurochemical cultivation, where we pay attention to what nourishes our happiness chemistry and what depletes it. This isn't about rigid rules or perfectionism, but about gentle awareness and skillful response. We might notice that certain activities consistently boost our mood, that particular people tend to drain our energy, that specific times of day are more conducive to certain types of activities. This awareness allows us to make choices that support our emotional well being without becoming obsessive or controlling. The happiness chemistry of simplicity reveals why many wisdom traditions emphasize the importance of reducing complexity and focusing on what truly matters. When our lives become too complicated, our stress response systems can become chronically activated, interfering with the production and function of happiness chemicals. Simplicity creates space for joy to emerge naturally without the interference of chronic overwhelm or decision fatigue. This doesn't mean living in deprivation or avoiding all complexity. Rather, it's about conscious choice making, regularly evaluating what truly serves our well being and what merely adds noise to our lives. The practice of simplicity can be a powerful tool for optimizing happiness chemistry, creating more space for the activities, relationships, and experiences that truly nourish us. The concept of emotional sustainability becomes important as we consider how to maintain healthy happiness chemistry over the long term. Just as environmental sustainability requires us to use resources in ways that can be maintained indefinitely, emotional sustainability requires us to pursue happiness in ways that don't deplete our neurochemical reserves or create unsustainable dependencies. This means finding joy in simple pleasures, building resilience through consistent practices, and avoiding the boom and bust cycles that can come from chasing intense but unsustainable highs. The happiness chemistry of presence and mindfulness offers one of the most reliable paths to sustainable well being. When we're fully present with our current experience, our brains can more completely engage with whatever positive elements are available in the moment. This doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending everything is wonderful, but rather learning to notice and appreciate the good that exists alongside the challenging. The practice of present moment awareness is like tuning into a radio station that's always broadcasting, but that we often miss because we're focused on other frequencies. The warmth of sunlight on our skin, the sound of birds singing, the feeling of breath moving in and out of our bodies. These simple experiences are constantly available to us, offering gentle but consistent support for our happiness chemistry. The social dimension of happiness chemistry extends beyond our immediate relationships to include our sense of belonging to something larger than ourselves. When we feel connected to our communities, our cultures, our planet, our universe, we experience neurochemical responses similar to those triggered by personal relationships. This sense of belonging can provide a stable foundation for happiness chemistry that doesn't depend on specific individuals or circumstances. The practice of cultivating connection can be as simple as spending time in nature, participating in community activities, or engaging in spiritual practices that help us feel part of something larger. The key is finding ways to experience ourselves as part of the interconnected web of existence, rather than as isolated individuals struggling alone against an indifferent universe. The happiness chemistry of contribution and service reveals why humans have such a deep drive to help others and make a positive difference in the world. When we engage in activities that benefit others, our brains release a cocktail of positive neurotransmitters that create feelings of fulfillment and purpose. This isn't just altruism, it's neurochemically rewarding, creating a natural incentive for pro-social behavior. The beautiful thing about service-oriented happiness chemistry is that it's available to everyone, regardless of resources or circumstances. The person who offers a listening ear to a troubled friend, the individual who picks up litter in their neighborhood, the volunteer who helps at a local charity, these acts of service all trigger similar neurochemical responses. The key is not the scale of the contribution, but the intention and care behind it. The role of ritual and ceremony in happiness chemistry becomes clear when we understand how our brains respond to meaningful, repeated activities. Rituals don't just provide structure and meaning, they create predictable opportunities for positive neurochemical experiences, whether it's a daily meditation practice, a weekly family dinner, or an annual celebration. These rituals can become touchstones for happiness chemistry, reliable sources of joy and connection in our lives. The power of ritual lies not in the specific activities, but in the intention and attention we bring to them. A simple bedtime routine can become a powerful tool for happiness chemistry if we approach it with mindfulness and gratitude. The key is consistency and meaning, creating reliable opportunities for positive neurochemical experiences that support our overall well being. The happiness chemistry of creativity and self expression reveals why humans have such a deep drive to create and share their unique perspectives with the world. When we engage in creative activities, we activate multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously, creating complex and satisfying emotional experiences. The process of creation provides dopamine driven motivation, while the completion triggers endorphin release, and the sharing of our creations can boost oxytocin levels. The therapeutic value of creative expression becomes clear when we understand its neurochemical effects. Art therapy, music therapy, writing therapy, and other creative interventions aren't just pleasant distractions, they're powerful tools for optimizing brain chemistry and supporting emotional healing. The act of creation itself can help process difficult emotions, build resilience, and create new neural pathways associated with positive experience. The concept of happiness chemistry as a practice rather than a destination helps us approach our emotional well being with realistic expectations and sustainable strategies. Like physical fitness, emotional fitness requires ongoing attention and care. Some days we'll feel the full flower of our happiness chemistry, while other days we'll simply tend the garden, trusting that with consistent care, joy will bloom again in its own time. This practice based approach to happiness chemistry emphasizes small, consistent actions over dramatic interventions. The daily moment of gratitude, the regular walk in nature, the weekly call with a friend, the monthly creative project, these simple practices can create profound shifts in our neurochemical baseline over time. It's not about perfection, but about gentle, persistent care for the systems that support our emotional well being. The happiness chemistry of wonder and curiosity reveals why maintaining a sense of awe and interest in the world around us is so important for emotional health. When we approach life with genuine curiosity, our brains release dopamine in anticipation of discovery. When we encounter something that inspires wonder, we experience a unique neurochemical signature that can provide lasting boosts to our mood and well being. The capacity for wonder is available to everyone, regardless of age, circumstances, or resources. The child who marvels at the way water moves, the adult who notices the intricate patterns in a leaf, the elderly person who finds fascination in the complexity of memory and time. These moments of wonder can provide profound neurochemical benefits. The key is maintaining what some call beginner's mind, approaching the world with fresh eyes and open curiosity. The seasonal aspects of happiness chemistry remind us that we're part of the natural world, subject to the same rhythms and cycles that govern all living things. Our neurotransmitter systems evolved in harmony with the changing seasons, and they continue to respond to variations in light, temperature, and natural patterns. Rather than fighting these seasonal fluctuations, we can learn to work with them, adjusting our practices and expectations to support our happiness chemistry throughout the year. The winter months might call for more attention to light exposure, social connection, and activities that support serotonin production. Spring might offer opportunities for renewal and growth, engaging our dopamine systems through new projects and adventures. Summer might be ideal for social gatherings and outdoor activities that boost endorphin production through physical activity and social bonding. Autumn might invite reflection and gratitude practices that support overall well being as we prepare for the quieter months ahead. The happiness chemistry of learning and growth reveals why humans have such a deep drive to understand and improve themselves. When we make progress toward meaningful goals, our brains reward us with positive neurochemicals. When we gain new insights, we experience the satisfaction of expanded understanding. When we develop new skills, we feel the deep fulfillment that comes from increased competence and mastery. This growth oriented happiness chemistry is particularly sustainable because it doesn't depend on external validation or material rewards. The person who finds joy in learning, who delights in small improvements, who celebrates incremental progress, has access to a renewable source of neurochemical satisfaction. It's like having an internal reward system that responds to effort and intention rather than just outcomes and achievements. The practice of emotional regulation through understanding our happiness chemistry offers us practical tools for navigating life's inevitable challenges. When we recognize that intense emotions are partly neurochemical storms with predictable patterns and durations, we can weather them with greater skill and patience. This doesn't mean suppressing or avoiding difficult emotions, but rather learning to work with them more skillfully, like a sailor who knows how to navigate stormy seas without being overwhelmed by them. The relationship between physical health and happiness chemistry reveals the profound interconnection between our bodies and our emotional well being. Regular exercise doesn't just improve physical fitness, it optimizes neurotransmitter function. Proper nutrition doesn't just fuel our bodies, it provides the building blocks for mood regulating chemicals. Adequate sleep doesn't just restore our energy, it allows our brains to reset and rebalance their neurochemical systems. Understanding this mind body connection empowers us to approach emotional well being holistically, recognizing that caring for our physical health is also caring for our happiness chemistry. Simple practices like staying hydrated, getting sunlight exposure, maintaining regular sleep schedules, and engaging in gentle movement can have profound effects on our emotional state. The happiness chemistry of gratitude and appreciation deserves special attention because it's both simple and profoundly effective. When we consciously focus on what we appreciate in our lives, our brains release dopamine and other mood enhancing chemicals. This isn't just positive thinking, it's a practical intervention in our neurochemistry that can be practiced anywhere, anytime, without requiring any special resources or circumstances. The practice of gratitude can be as simple as taking a moment each day to notice three things we appreciate, or as elaborate as keeping a detailed gratitude journal. The key is consistency and sincerity, genuinely connecting with the feeling of appreciation rather than just going through the motions. Over time, this practice can literally rewire our brains to notice and appreciate positive experiences more readily, creating a more optimistic baseline for our happiness chemistry. As we gently draw this exploration to a close, we find ourselves not with a formula for happiness, but with a deeper appreciation for the remarkable complexity and beauty of human emotional experience. The chemistry of happiness reveals itself as both profoundly scientific and utterly mysterious, both precisely measurable and infinitely personal. In understanding how joy works at the molecular level, we don't solve the puzzle of human contentment. We simply add another layer of wonder to the already miraculous fact of consciousness itself. The knowledge that happiness has a neurochemical basis doesn't diminish its meaning any more than understanding how a flower grows makes it less beautiful. If anything, it deepens our appreciation for the elegant sophistication of the systems that support our emotional lives. Every moment of peace, every burst of laughter, every feeling of connection represents a perfectly orchestrated symphony of molecules dancing in the theater of our minds. This understanding offers us both humility and hope. We're humbled by the complexity of the systems that create our emotional experience, reminded that we're part of something much larger and more intricate than we can fully comprehend. Yet we're also hopeful because we see that we're not passive victims of random neurochemical weather, but active participants in the ongoing creation of our own emotional landscape. The chemistry of happiness whispers to us about the fundamental goodness of existence, about the fact that our brains and bodies are designed not just for survival, but for flourishing. The very existence of these sophisticated systems for joy, love, and contentment suggests that happiness is not a luxury or an accident, but a fundamental feature of what it means to be human. We are, quite literally, built for joy. And so, as you continue on your own journey through the landscapes of consciousness and chemistry, carry with you the gentle knowledge that every moment offers an opportunity to participate in the creation of your own happiness. Whether through a conscious breath, a moment of gratitude, a kind gesture, or simply the choice to notice beauty in the world around you, you can engage with the molecular symphony that creates your emotional experience. The chemistry of happiness reveals itself not as a destination to reach, but as a dance to join, not as a problem to solve, but as a gift to receive with open hands and an open heart. In this dance, we find not just our own well being, but our connection to the great web of existence, where every moment of joy creates ripples that touch other lives in ways we may never know but can always trust. Sleep well, knowing that even in rest, your remarkable brain continues its quiet work of creating the neurochemical foundation for tomorrow's possibilities. Dream sweetly, and may your happiness chemistry flow like a gentle stream, nourishing not just your own well being, but contributing to the collective joy of this beautiful, complex, chemically miraculous world we all share. And perhaps most beautifully, the chemistry of happiness reveals that joy is not a scarce resource that we must hoard or compete for, but an abundant gift that multiplies when shared. When we understand that our happiness chemistry is interconnected with that of others, we begin to see acts of kindness not as sacrifices, but as investments in collective well being. The smile we offer to a stranger, the patience we show during difficult moments, the genuine interest we take in others' experiences. These simple gestures create cascades of positive neurochemistry that ripple outward in ways we may never fully comprehend. The practice of conscious happiness chemistry becomes a form of gentle activism where we contribute to the world's well being simply by tending to our own emotional landscape with skill and care. When we choose practices that support our neurotransmitter balance, we're not just improving our own lives, we're becoming sources of positive influence for everyone around us. It's like being a tuning fork that helps other instruments find their proper pitch, creating harmony through our own resonance. The temporal nature of happiness chemistry reminds us that emotional well being is not a destination, but a journey, not an achievement, but a practice. Our neurochemical landscape is constantly shifting, responding to the changing seasons of our lives with the same natural rhythms that govern tides and weather patterns. Some days our happiness chemistry flows like a babbling brook, clear and constant, while other days it might feel more like a gentle rain, soft and intermittent, but no less nourishing. Learning to read these natural fluctuations with compassion rather than judgment becomes a crucial skill in working with our happiness chemistry. When we notice our mood beginning to shift, we can respond with the same gentle attention we might give to a beloved plant that's looking a bit droopy, not with alarm or self criticism, but with curiosity about what it might need. Perhaps more light, more water, more space to breathe, or simply more time to rest and restore itself. The concept of neurochemical seasons extends beyond the calendar to encompass the larger rhythms of our lives. There are seasons of growth when our dopamine systems are highly active and we feel motivated to pursue new goals and experiences. There are seasons of connection when our oxytocin pathways are particularly responsive and we find ourselves drawn to deepen relationships and build community. There are seasons of reflection when our serotonin systems support peaceful contemplation and integration of our experiences. Understanding these personal seasons can help us work with our natural rhythms rather than against them. Instead of expecting ourselves to be constantly productive or perpetually social, we can learn to honor the ebb and flow of our neurochemical tides. This seasonal approach to happiness chemistry creates space for all aspects of our emotional experience, recognizing that periods of quiet introspection are just as valuable as times of active engagement. The happiness chemistry of transitions and change reveals why humans often find major life shifts both challenging and ultimately rewarding. When our familiar patterns are disrupted, our neurochemical systems must adapt and recalibrate, which can initially feel uncomfortable or unsettling. But these periods of transition also offer opportunities for growth and renewal, chances to develop new neural pathways, and discover previously untapped sources of joy and satisfaction. The key to navigating transitions skillfully lies in maintaining practices that support our core happiness chemistry while remaining open to new possibilities. Like a tree that stays rooted while allowing its branches to sway in the wind, we can maintain our emotional foundation while adapting to changing circumstances. This flexibility becomes a form of neurochemical resilience, allowing us to weather life's storms while remaining open to unexpected sources of beauty and joy. The role of sleep in happiness chemistry deserves special attention as we prepare for rest. During sleep, our brains perform crucial maintenance work, clearing away metabolic waste products and rebalancing neurotransmitter systems. The dreams that emerge during REM sleep may actually serve as a kind of emotional processing, helping us integrate the day's experiences and prepare our happiness chemistry for tomorrow's possibilities. Creating rituals around sleep that support this neurochemical restoration becomes a gift we give to both our present and future selves. The gentle dimming of lights, the quiet gratitude for the day's experiences, the conscious relaxation of body and mind, the simple practices help signal to our brains that it's time to begin the restorative work that will support tomorrow's capacity for joy. The happiness chemistry of anticipation and hope reveals why having things to look forward to is so crucial for emotional well being. When we imagine positive future experiences, our brains begin producing the neurochemicals associated with pleasure and reward even before those experiences occur. This anticipatory happiness chemistry can sustain us through difficult times, providing a neurochemical bridge between present challenges and future possibilities. The practice of conscious hope cultivation becomes a powerful tool for supporting our happiness chemistry over time. This doesn't mean denying present difficulties or engaging in wishful thinking, but rather maintaining awareness of the positive possibilities that exist alongside current challenges. Like a gardener who plants seeds in winter, knowing that spring will come, we can nurture hope as a form of neurochemical preparation for future joy. The happiness chemistry of forgiveness and letting go reveals why releasing grudges and resentments is so beneficial for our emotional well being. When we hold on to anger or hurt, we maintain chronic stress responses that interfere with positive neurotransmitter production. Forgiveness, whether of others or ourselves, creates space for our happiness chemistry to flow more freely, like removing a dam that allows a river to return to its natural course. This process of letting go doesn't happen overnight and doesn't require us to condone harmful behavior or put ourselves in unsafe situations. Rather, it's a gradual practice of releasing the neurochemical burden of chronic negative emotions for our own well being. Sometimes this release comes through conscious choice, other times through the natural healing that occurs when we create space for new experiences and perspectives. The happiness chemistry of creativity and play reveals why these activities feel so naturally rewarding and essential to human well being. When we engage in creative expression or playful activities, we activate multiple neurotransmitter systems simultaneously, creating complex and satisfying emotional experiences. The process provides dopamine driven motivation, the completion triggers endorphin release, and sharing our creations can boost oxytocin levels. The therapeutic power of play extends far beyond childhood, offering adults a pathway back to the natural joy and curiosity that support healthy happiness chemistry. Whether through art, music, games, or simply approaching daily activities with a sense of playfulness, we can access these powerful neurochemical benefits throughout our lives. The key is maintaining permission to engage in activities simply because they bring us joy, without needing to justify them through productivity or achievement. The happiness chemistry of nature connection reveals our deep evolutionary relationship with the natural world. When we spend time in natural settings, our brains respond with measurable changes in neurotransmitter levels, stress hormone reduction, and overall mood improvement. This isn't just about the aesthetic beauty of nature, it's about the way our neurochemical systems recognize and respond to the environments where our species evolved. Even brief encounters with nature can provide significant benefits for our happiness chemistry. The few minutes spent watching clouds drift across the sky, the moment of pause to notice birdsong, the simple act of feeling grass beneath our feet. These small connections with the natural world can trigger subtle but meaningful shifts in our neurochemical state. For those who live in urban environments, even looking at images of nature or tending to houseplants can provide some of these benefits. The happiness chemistry of routine and ritual provides stability and predictability that our brains find deeply comforting. When we create consistent practices around activities that support our well being, we establish reliable touch points for positive neurochemical experiences. These rituals don't need to be elaborate or time consuming. The simple act of making tea with full attention, taking a few conscious breaths before starting the day, or expressing gratitude before sleep can become powerful anchors for happiness chemistry. The consistency of these practices is more important than their specific content. Our brains respond well to predictable patterns that signal safety and care, creating neurochemical foundations that support emotional stability, even when external circumstances become challenging. These rituals become like familiar songs that help tune our emotional instruments, creating harmony in the symphony of our daily experience. The happiness chemistry of learning and curiosity reveals why maintaining a sense of wonder and interest in the world around us is so crucial for emotional well being. When we approach life with genuine curiosity, our brains release dopamine in anticipation of discovery. When we learn something new, we experience the satisfaction of expanded understanding. This learning based happiness chemistry is particularly sustainable because it doesn't depend on external validation or material resources. The practice of cultivating curiosity can be as simple as asking genuine questions about the world around us, approaching familiar experiences with fresh eyes, or allowing ourselves to be surprised by the ordinary moments of daily life. The person who finds fascination in the way morning light changes throughout the seasons, who wonders about the stories behind strangers' faces, who remains curious about their own thoughts and feelings, has access to a renewable source of neurochemical nourishment. The happiness chemistry of contribution and service reveals why helping others feels so naturally rewarding. When we engage in acts of kindness or service, our brains release a cocktail of positive neurotransmitters that create feelings of fulfillment and connection. This helper's high isn't just a pleasant side effect, it's a fundamental feature of human neurochemistry that has helped our species survive and thrive through cooperation and mutual care. The beautiful thing about service oriented happiness chemistry is that it's available to everyone, regardless of circumstances or resources. The listening ear offered to a friend, the door held open for a stranger, the moment of patience with someone who's struggling. These simple acts of kindness can trigger profound neurochemical rewards. The key is not the scale of the contribution, but the genuine intention to ease another's burden or increase their joy. As we gently conclude this exploration into the molecular poetry of human emotion, we find ourselves holding a precious understanding. The chemistry of happiness is not a formula to be solved, but a dance to be danced, not a destination to reach, but a way of traveling through life with greater awareness and skill. In learning about the neurochemical foundations of joy, we don't diminish its mystery. We deepen our appreciation for the remarkable gift of consciousness itself. The knowledge that happiness has a biological basis offers us both humility and hope. We're humbled by the elegant complexity of the systems that create our emotional experience, reminded that we're part of an intricate web of chemical relationships that extends far beyond our individual awareness. Yet we're also hopeful because we see that we're not passive recipients of random neurochemical weather, but active participants in the ongoing creation of our own emotional landscape. This understanding transforms how we might approach the inevitable challenges of human existence. When sadness visits, like an unexpected storm, we can remember that this too is chemistry, temporary and changeable. When anxiety makes our thoughts race, we can recognize the stress hormones at work and engage practices that help restore balance. When loneliness feels overwhelming, we can remember that our brains are literally designed for connection and that reaching out is not weakness, but biological wisdom. The practice of happiness chemistry becomes a form of gentle self care, where we tend to our neurochemical garden with the same patience and attention we might give to any living thing we love. Some days we'll feel the full bloom of joy, while other days we'll simply water the roots and trust in the natural cycles of growth and renewal. This is not about forcing happiness or denying difficult emotions, but about creating the conditions where natural well being can flourish. The social dimension of happiness chemistry reminds us that our individual well being is intimately connected to the well being of others. When we practice kindness, we're not just being good, we're participating in the creation of collective neurochemical harmony. When we choose to share our joy, we're contributing to a ripple effect of positive brain chemistry that can touch lives far beyond our immediate awareness. And so, as you prepare to drift into sleep tonight, carry with you this gentle knowledge that your remarkable brain will continue its quiet work of creating the chemical foundation for tomorrow's possibilities. The molecules of happiness are already there, waiting in the wings of your consciousness, ready to dance their ancient dance of joy and connection and wonder. Sleep well, knowing that even in rest, your neurochemical systems are quietly preparing for whatever tomorrow may bring. Dream sweetly, and may your happiness chemistry flow like a gentle stream, nourishing not just your own well being, but contributing to the collective joy of this beautiful, complex, chemically miraculous world we all share. In the morning light, may you awaken refreshed and ready to engage once again with the endless possibilities for joy that exist in each moment, each breath, each choice to notice beauty and create connection. The chemistry of happiness is always available, always present, always waiting for your gentle attention and care. Until we meet again in another corner of scientific wonder, rest well, dear listener. Sweet dreams, and may your happiness chemistry sing its quiet song of contentment throughout the peaceful hours ahead.